What's the business that's going to put you out of business? And what would it look like if you built it first? One of the greatest pieces that leaders take from their people is thinking leverage. Their people come to them with questions and they give them the answer because they think it's faster or they think they're right. But you just took the most valuable part of their job, because thinking is what drives actions and actions is what drives results. If you do not hold your people accountable to think, you can never hold them accountable to perform. You can never say to me, Geoff, you didn't tell me to do that. I'm going to say, then you didn't ask me the right questions. You need to show up, tell me what you're trying to accomplish, and you need to ask the right questions to pull whatever you need out of my head so you have my context, so you can represent my thinking to the best of your ability and go and execute and take it through the finish line. I'll tell you, one of the biggest problems in companies right now is people, the wrong strategy. You might have a vision for what your future competitive advantage is, but how do you know if it is sustainable and defensible in an AI-driven world when AI is changing what's sustainable and defensible?
Welcome to Unlocking Moves, where we want to cover those key pivotal moments and decision points to really change the lives of successful entrepreneurs and leaders. And I want to hear their stories, because I think we learn the best from stories. But I don't want to hear just your glory story, Geoff Woods. I want to hear your gory stories, because as I like to say, the bigger the shit show, the bigger the lesson. So my guest today is Geoff Woods. He is the author of The AI-Driven Leader and the founder and CEO of AI Leadership. And we're going to talk about a lot of things about AI and how we can use it in our life and our business. But I want you to hear his story, because I think you'll find it fascinating. But Geoff, before we get into any of that, I think I like to hit my guests up with an off-the-wall question or comment to really keep them on their toes, keep my audience on their toes. You ready for this?
Let's go.
All right. So we share a mutual friend. You're episode 66 of Unlocking Moves. Our mutual friend is Jason Bronstad, the CEO of Malk Organics. He's your neighbor. He was episode number 20, so about 2 years ago. I called him and asked him specifically, give me some dirt on Geoff. All right.
That's good.
So here we go. But he wouldn't tell. He's like, dude, I'm sworn to secrecy. I can't tell you anything. So here's your chance. Give me some dirt on Jason. Give me some gory story I can share about Jason.
Oh, it's funny. And he literally, Kurt is trying to get, I'm looking at his text. Kurt is trying to get info for the podcast. Thought you'd like to know what I fed him. That's hilarious. Dirt on Jason.
First of all, you're a bad person if you give me any dirt after he swore he wouldn't give you.
Yeah. It's not dirt, but it's what people may not see, which is how massive that man's heart is. You know, he's a profoundly successful CEO and leader, but the depth at which he feels empathy for his people is beyond what I normally see across leaders.
Well, that is absolutely true. And it's absolutely boring, because I wanted some dirt. So either you guys are Boy Scouts and have nothing going on, or you're both really, really bad people that are sworn yourself to secrecy. So
maybe he just brought me some Malk right before that. You never know.
Exactly. They are next door neighbors. So here's my question. He did share with me that your EA is in the process of helping you 10x your time. In order to do that, you had to stop, quote, violating your own rules. So that's what I want to hear about. What are you doing, and what is your assistant doing to 10x your time?
So it's even deeper than that. Marianella was my executive assistant. She has been promoted and has a new title now because of what I'm about to tell you. 4 months in to working with me, she was crushing every KPI I had for her role, which from my standpoint means it's time to raise the bar. It's time to give her a bigger opportunity. Kurt, I sat down with her on one of our one-on-ones and I said, you're absolutely crushing it. I want to create a bigger opportunity, but I want you to help shape this. I want you to use AI to interview you about what your greatest strengths are, that if we were not having you harness your strengths in this company, we would be doing ourselves a disservice. And I want you to cast a vision for how you can bring 10 times to 100 times more value to AI leadership with those strengths. She goes, got it. Now I want to be clear. Before working with me, she knew how to spell AI. That was it. She joined the company. She read my book, The AI-Driven Leader. That was it. She comes back to me the next week. She goes, I'm ready. And I said, with what? She goes, my vision. I go, okay, let's hear it. And she goes, well, based on my strengths, here's the 20% things I'm currently doing that if I doubled down on those, I could bring 10 times more value. Also, based on my strengths, here's the things I'm not doing. And if I started doing them, I think I could bring 10 times more value. But if I'm going to focus on those two categories, here's all the things I'm currently doing that I'd have to stop doing. And I've segmented them into 3 groups. Here's the stuff we should actually just stop doing. They don't matter. Here's the stuff we can get AI to augment or automate. And here's the stuff that I think still needs to be done by a person. Based on that, here's a job description for my replacement. Here's their 20% priorities, their 90-day onboarding plan. Here's the compensation research I've done. I recommend we pay them X. Do I have your permission? I'm blown away. And I go, amazing job. What's next on the agenda?
That's
And she
awesome.
goes, that's not it. That's not the end. She goes, we're not done. You asked me to cast a vision for 10 times to 100 times more value. I'm sitting back, I'm going, okay, this is gonna be good. My realization is I cannot bring 100 times more value unless I make you, Geoff, 100 times more valuable. Here's a prompt I've architected for you to help you become 100 times more valuable. I say to her, I can't wait to do this prompt. And she goes, good, you'll do it now. I'll wait. And she literally waits while AI sits there and interviews me for like 15, 20 minutes. And it spits out a similar vision, but a set of rules that we would have to embed in the company to transform my time allocation. I tell her, this is the most valuable prompt I've ever done. And she goes, I appreciate that, but we have a problem. What is it? You love to break the rules. I'll put this in place, but you're going to wiggle out of every single one of these. So here's another prompt I've architected where AI will literally study you on every way you could potentially wiggle out of these rules, and it will create a defense process. So if you ever want to violate a rule, you're going to have to go through AI first. This has completely transformed the allocation of my time, as well as her opportunity in the company. She's now my executive multiplier. Her job is to make me 100 times more valuable, to run all our advisory scopes for Latin America, and to build all the systems around our rhythm of the business and culture inside the company.
That's incredible. And that's after only 4 months. And by the way, we're just on the opening question of this episode. So, man, that is badass. We're going to have a lot of questions about that, I'm sure, too. So, hey, as you guys can tell, my guest today is Geoff Woods. He is the author of The AI-Driven Leader and the CEO and founder of AI Leadership. And he was previously Chief Growth Officer of Gyngell Steel and Power. We're going to talk about that for a second. And he was previously the Chief Growth Officer and AI Executive Chairman at Gyngell Steel and Power, which is literally a power broker in the EMEA region. And he was co-founder and president of Productive, the company behind Gary Keller's best-selling book, The One Thing. Geoff Woods, welcome to Unlocking Moves.
It's a pleasure to be here, Kurt.
Man, there's a lot of stuff we want to cover. And I want to start with your story. Because as I mentioned, the last 10 years have been remarkable, which includes The One Thing. It includes Gyngell Steel and Power. It includes AI leadership. But there's not much I could find on you online about The One Thing. So roughly from 2008 to 2015, after you left UC Santa Barbara. So my question is, were you in the witness protection program, or what were you doing, Geoff Woods?
I remember it was 2008. I was doing an internship my senior year at UC Santa Barbara. And I sat down with the CEO right before graduating, Kurt, and I asked him what job he thought I should get after school. And he looks at me and he goes, Geoff, you're asking the wrong question. You really should be asking, what are the skills that I can master that will be so valuable they'll serve me no matter where I go? Then go find jobs that'll help you build those skills. Best career advice I've ever received, literally given to me my senior year. At the time, I was studying accounting. He helped me self-discover that maybe being a CPA was not meant for me and my personality. He recommended I went into sales. So when I graduated, I went to work for Xerox because I was told they...
Before you go on, I want to pause on that because that is great advice. I have 3 sons that have all graduated high school, 2 have graduated college, and I have a lot of their friends coming to me for advice. That is amazing advice right there. Obtain the skills that you need, you want, instead of looking for a job. I love it.
That's right. So I went to work for Xerox because I was told they had the best sales training program. Did that, hated it because nobody likes their copier rep. Got into medical device sales because I thought it'd be sexy and my wife would call me McDreamy. That did not happen. I had a good sales career, Kurt, but I think like a lot of people who have shifted it from employee to entrepreneur, you have that moment where you wake up realizing you're meant for more. And for me, growth is a core value. feeling like I was playing below my potential was actually painful. And I remember it was our national sales meeting. We're in Lake Tahoe. I literally had to walk out of a session because I could not physically stand it. And I'm staring up at the mountains thinking, when in the world am I ever going to be able to get out of this and start a company? But I had all the imposter syndrome. I don't know how. I don't have any money, like all this stuff. I walk into the next session. On every chair was a copy of a book, The One Thing. And on stage walked Jay Papasan, who co-authored the book with Gary Keller. And for the next hour, he blew my mind. And the whole time he's talking, I'm going, what would my life look like if a guy like Jay or a guy like Gary Keller were one of the 5 people I spent the most time with, like Jim Rhodes says? When he finished speaking, you have 1,500 people explode out of their chairs, standing ovation. Everyone sits. I'm still standing. This was a defining moment. My body was saying, sit down, Geoff. My mind was saying, run. And before you know it, I'm borderline tackling Jay when he comes off stage. And that began a relationship. I had no idea that The One Thing at the time was one of the highest rated business books, and that he and Gary were actually trying to turn the book into a company. But Gary's One Thing is running Keller Williams. Jay's One Thing is writing books with Gary. My One Thing became The One Thing.
I love it, man. We talk about unlocking moves. We're going to talk about that here in a bit, but I imagine that's yours. And what I think about is so many people, 1,500 people in the audience, as you said, rose and gave him a rounding ovation. Many of them likely wanted to meet Jay, probably wanted to tackle him like you did. You did. You took that step. It's a step that was probably a bit fearful at first, and you ended up striking that relationship. And I'm not encouraging my audience to go tackle the speakers at your next event, but most folks are approachable for at least a coffee or a discussion, and especially if they impact you in such a way.
I agree.
Today's episode is brought to you by Chinook Seedery, the best sunflower seeds ever. Available online at chinookseedery.com and Amazon, or wherever you get your seeds, including Buc-ee's, Dick's Sporting Goods, Shields, Love's Travel Stop, Circle K, and thousands of other locations around the country.
So tell me a few stories. What would you like for us to know about your time at The One Thing? Because you got to talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders there as well. Tell me a couple of the key takeaways.
Man, I think if I reflect back on my time with Gary and Jay, I mean, they literally handed me a playbook on how to scale big companies on a silver platter. My job was to learn them, live them, and then turn around and literally teach them. All of a sudden, I'm going into the C-suite of Fortune 500 companies, driving their strategic planning. One of the core skills that I had to learn was the skill of asking the right questions. My whole life, I thought I had to have the right answer because that's what school rewarded. That's how you got an A on the test. But in business, it's not about having the right answers. It's about asking the right questions that get you to think bigger and search beyond what you even think might be possible. And learning how to ask questions that you could ask to leadership teams that would literally unlock new levels of growth became a superpower for me. So that was one.
Hey, before you move on, kids, let's take that to the bank. It's not about having the right answers, it's having the right questions. Get people talking about their challenges. And that's even, especially if you're in sales, don't sell them what you've got. Listen to what their challenge is and try to solve it in some way. That's how you build a relationship and rapport.
Totally. And I think my first conversation with Gary Keller was profound. It was November 1st, 2015. He was holding a mastermind for the top 20 agents in Keller Williams. I got there early. I'm sitting on the side of the room next to Jay. Gary walks straight on to stage and just starts talking. I had never met him before. All my interview process was with Jay. And he said, okay, let's take a 15-minute break. And I remember I'm typing notes on my computer about everything I just learned. And all of a sudden I feel a set of hands on my shoulders. And I turn around and I look and it's Gary. And he says, welcome to Austin. Good luck. You're going to need it. And I said, hi, thanks, why? And he asked me, Geoff, do you know what the best part about your job is? Kurt, I said, no. And he goes, that it's your job. Here's why this matters. You are going to want to give me pieces of your job. You're going to want me to go on stage, me to go on the podcast, me to go on the course. But if you need me, then I don't need you. So you need to figure out how to succeed without me. That was profound because as the years would go on, I've realized A lot of leaders have never made a standard that the best part about your job is it's your job. And I will refuse to take pieces of your job. And one of the greatest pieces that leaders take from their people is thinking leverage. Their people come to them with questions and they give them the answer because they think it's faster or they think they're right. But you just took the most valuable part of their job because thinking is what drives actions and actions is what drives results. If you do not hold your people accountable to think, you can never hold them accountable to perform.
Dude, that is so powerful. It hits home for me in two ways. Number one is we like to be the smartest person in the room as the leader, and we want to give answers. We want to feel valuable, but what we're doing is neutering our folks. The other is what you said about him being on stage or him being the ambassador or whatever. For most entrepreneurs, we are the face of the brand. And so we hire a salesperson. They want to bring us to every meeting. They want to put us on the stage. They want to do whatever. And you're basically just giving me an extra job to do. So there's no way, as we started this podcast, I'm being 100x'd on my time. I'm being, reduced because I'm having to do your job as well. Man, that is powerful stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm a big fan of The One Thing, and I've actually been on the pod, which was great when I was coming out with my book, Who's Your Mike, which is not great as big of a bestseller as AI Leadership, but or the AI Driven Leader, but it's pretty darn good. Anyway, I want to jump to Jindal Power because I read something recently that during your 4 years there, the market cap went from 750 million, which is, we can all argue is pretty amazing, to over $12 billion is what I read over 4 years. So first of all, holy shit, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Second of all, come on, man, there's no way that happened.
Here's the crazy thing. That was one company. I was responsible for 10. The other 9 are private. I can't say what they did. They all grew too.
Oh my gosh.
So while I was with The One Thing, I was Naveen Jindal's coach. And Naveen's the chairman who owns all the companies. And when he found out that I had left The One Thing, he called me and he said, "What are you going to do next?" And I said, "Honestly, I don't know. I'm prepared to take a few years just to be with family and figure it out." And he said, "Why don't you come in-house?" And I said, "Interesting. What's the job?" And he goes, "You know the business. You tell me." And the thing that I realized is this is almost like a family business that is like a parent company that owns lots of companies, 10 different companies, each of them very successful. But they weren't playing together as one group. And I found myself wondering if you could establish the right growth processes at a parent company level and drive them through the portfolio, could you unlock growth across the whole thing? So I stepped in as chief growth officer over all the companies. My focus was really narrow. When I think about what actually drives value for companies, it is strategy, execution, people, and technology. Strategy is your future competitive advantage. And so I would work with the C-suite of every company to identify what's the business that's going to put you out of business. And what would it look like if you built it first? That's a question that unlocks new levels of growth. Let's clarify that. Then execution is, can we have a focused business plan we actually stay focused on? This has been my background the last decade, is driving strategic planning and execution. But I had this realization, Kurt. Why do we hire people? It's to achieve our goals. But how often do goals and priorities shift inside a company? Every day. How often do you formally update the job descriptions of your entire workforce? Never. That is a massive problem. And I found myself wondering, how do you dynamically realign a workforce of this size? We have 100,000 people. Well, you can only do it if you look to technology. And so for me, it was about building all the systems around strategy, execution, people, and technology at a group level and driving it through the whole portfolio that made a huge impact.
Wow, there's a lot to be gleaned there, man. I know that you speak on this topic quite a bit, and I'm sure there's a lot more we can find out about some of those stories. That's amazing what you accomplished. So you left there, and for a reason, I don't exactly know the reason, but then you launched into
Let's
AI
go there.
leadership. Yeah,
let's go there. It was December of 22 when I saw ChatGPT for the first time. It had literally been out for 2 weeks. And Kurt, when I saw it, I saw the next skill. At the same time, I had all, I think, the limiting beliefs that most people had, which is, I'm so busy, I'll get to this later. Or, you know what? This isn't my job. IT will figure this out. Or, you know what? We can just hire a consultant to tell us what to do. But I had that college mentor in my head. Focus on mastering the skills that are so valuable, they will serve you no matter where you go. In my bones, Kurt, I knew this was a skill. And so I made a commitment. I said, I'm going to use this once a day, every day. The problem is I was asking the wrong questions. I was asking, how do I write a better email with ChatGPT? I've gotten a lot of promotions in my career. Not a single one of them was because of the quality of my emails. And the thing that I told myself is, dude, you're using this for all the shit that doesn't matter. What does? And that's when I realized it came down to strategic thinking. Your ability to think strategically is the difference between growing your business or going out of business. But here I am asking AI questions. Could I turn the tables and make AI ask me the right questions to elevate how I think? And that's when I discovered this idea of using AI as a thought partner instead of as an assistant. That changed the game. I was flying to India every quarter. I'm at the chairman's house. I am showing him how I am using this for strategy instead of tactics. Very specific use case. I have a prompt framework called CRIT. Context, role, interview, task. This might be the most important thing I teach you on this whole podcast. When you talk to AI, follow this framework, you'll go to top 1% of people in the world. Give AI lots of context, assign it a role where you tell it the experts you want it to be, make it interview you to gain deeper context so it can then accomplish a task. So I literally showed him, I took our strategic plan for Jindal Steel, pulled it into a secure instance of ChatGPT and said, context attaches our strategic plan. Role. Your role is to act as an aggressive, growth-minded board member with deep expertise in the steel industry, vertically integrated from distribution to mining. Interview me. Ask me one question at a time, up to 5 questions to gain deeper context. Then your task is to give me the top 5 ways our plan is insufficient to deliver results and the changes we need to make in the next 30 days so we hit on our next quarterly earnings call. The chairman looks at me and goes, this is incredible. I go, yeah, it's the future. And he goes, I agree. I said, we should drive through the whole company. He goes, I agree. I said, this is so important. You got to own this as chairman of the board. He goes, I disagree. Why don't you do it? One problem. I know nothing about AI. I'm not a tech guy. I'm a strategy guy. But something I learned from Gary Keller is anytime you're hitting a ceiling of achievement, you are just missing a person. If I'm asking, how do I drive this? Am I even asking the right question versus who can I get in a relationship with that could enable me? That led to a partnership with Google. I started going to their headquarters. I learned a lot about the tech. And as I started to drive it through the company, it became very clear the tech is not the difference that makes the difference. It's you. It's your leadership. No one was focused on the leader. And so January of 24, I resigned because it was just so clear to me, I have to do this. And I said, I'm going to write a book about this. I'm going to turn it into a company. The AI-Driven Leader is now the #1 book in the world for AI. And I've built a company called AI Leadership that helps companies harness AI where it actually drives value, which is the intersection between strategy and execution. So it shows up in financial value.
Well, there's a lot I want to cover there on both fronts, both the book and the company. But let me start with the book because you mentioned it. So I've got a copy here called The AI-Driven Leader. It's I got it signed, a copy I might add, and I appreciate that. And what a lot of people don't know is I am
Is that
mentioned
your
in the
son's
book.
name is in it? Did you know that?
I did. I'm mentioned in the book as a connector to, of some folks he could interview. And my son Brady was an intern for Geoff during the summer when he wrote the book. So appreciate that, and he's a big fan. And I don't know if you know what he's doing right now. He's working as a software developer with a data and AI specific focus at it's called SoftServe, which is a company that
Good.
works a lot with NVIDIA. So really, he's in the space. So
Good.
you're a great heads up. Okay, so talk a little bit about the book, and then I've got some specific questions I want to ask you.
Oh man.
What's your favorite part? Let's say I like asking who's your favorite baby. What's your favorite part about the book?
I like the high price of asking the wrong questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
I asked you the wrong question. What kind of question I need to ask?
yeah. Most people are asking the wrong questions. They're asking, what's the right AI use case? Or how do we take cost out of the business? It's backwards. The way you drive value with AI is not in identifying 100 different use cases because the vast majority of them are distractions. This is simple 80-20 rule. 80% of your results come from 20% of your focus. People are not, they're looking at AI and saying, we've got to use AI, and they're making it a solution in search of a problem. You don't create value by finding solutions and then trying to find a problem to solve with it. You find the biggest problems that you are facing that if you could solve them would unlock new levels of growth. And then you ask, what's the right tool to solve that problem? AI is one of them. And I will tell you, one of the biggest problems in companies right now is people The wrong strategy. You might have a vision for what your future competitive advantage is, but how do you know if it is sustainable and defensible in an AI-driven world when AI is changing what's sustainable and defensible? That's step one. Two, whatever your annual business plan is, it's out of date because plans don't go according to plan and the tax to update it is too high and the job descriptions of your people are not aligned with the business plan and the tax to drive that alignment is physically impossible. Until now. That's what's top of mind for me there.
I love it. I got a couple of follow-up questions. You just triggered a couple of things. One is we all want to, as you said, leverage AI. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that executives are using that could make them irrelevant in the next couple of years?
They're saying, do as I say, not as I do. Every executive is saying we have to adopt AI. And if I asked them to show me their last 10 use cases, their last 10 chats, one, would I even find 10 chats? Because sometimes I go into the C-suite of big companies and they haven't even logged in. Or two, it's writing a better email. They're majoring in the minors.
Yeah. It's funny. So I'm using it a lot and I use chat as well. And I feel like I use it pretty well. I'm starting to dump a lot of things into my private instance and using it to build more knowledge about me and about a couple of companies I'm working with. But what I'm not doing is what you described as crit. I'm not asking it to interview me. And that's where I think the next step for me is I'm trying to basically be the growth officer, for lack of a better word, for the company I've invested in. I've needed to figure out what I'm going to do next, right?
Yeah.
And leverage the podcast and other things that I do to try to figure out what I'm going to do next. And you've given me some homework.
Yeah. It's a profoundly different experience when you shift from asking AI questions to getting AI to ask you questions, to pull deeper context out of your head. Because the reason this matters is we are terrible as humans at giving sufficient proactive context for AI to really do its job at the highest level. I'm not asking you to change there. I'm simply saying make it AI's job to pull it out of your head. And this is how I act with people as well. Like when somebody works with me, I say, my name is not Miss Cleo. I do not have a crystal ball. I have no idea what's going on inside your head. You can never say to me, Geoff, you didn't tell me to do that. I'm going to say, then you didn't ask me the right questions. You need to show up, tell me what you're trying to accomplish, and you need to ask the right questions to pull whatever you need out of my head so you have my context, so you can represent my thinking to the best of your ability and go and execute and take it through the finish line.
I love it. I love the way you, and even ever since I've known you writing the book, it was more about strategy than the tactical.
Totally.
And I've always appreciated that about you. So let me do a cheat code, a hack or whatever. What is one thing that these folks can do coming out of this podcast that could really help them from an AI perspective?
I want you to open up whatever AI tool you're using right now. It doesn't matter. It will work for any of them. And the first thing I want you to do is put on caps lock and I want you to type context. Then hold down the shift key and hit enter 3 times because you'll skip lines instead of setting the prompt. Then I want you to write role in all caps, hold down shift, hit enter 3 times. Then write interview, hold down shift, hit enter 3 times, then task. What you will now have done is put the crit framework into the text box of your context window. Now scroll up and go to context. And I want you to think, what is the biggest problem that I am facing right now? That if I could solve it, it would unlock a new level of growth. And I want you to type until you run out of ideas, or even better, use speech to text and talk to it until you run out of ideas. Literally, you could go for 2 minutes. And when you're done, recognize you still haven't gone deep enough. Give it more context. Ask yourself, what else? And go until you run out of air, and then go deeper. What else? And give it more. When you have gone 3 levels deep in the context section, now you're good. Then shift to role. Who are the experts you wish you could have at your fingertips to advise you right now? You literally have access to expertise of the world. I'm thinking about your situation, Kurt. I want you to think like a serial entrepreneur whose deep superpower is understanding a man's mission and purpose in life. And when they're navigating a transition after post-exit of a company that they owned, they're getting deeper in touch with what they want the rest of their life to look like, their goals, how they want to grow as an individual, and finding those opportunities where they could apply those strengths and align them with business opportunity. I would use this verbatim. Interview me, ask me 1 question at a time, up to 3 questions to gain deeper context. There's a lot of psychology behind that. Interview me is a command for how you get it to ask questions instead of give answers. Ask me one question at a time is extremely important. It's what makes it a conversation. If you do not put that in there, it's going to ask you all the questions at once. And that's overwhelming. And it really lowers the quality because when it asks one question, Kurt, you're going to give it context you wouldn't have thought to have given it. It will use that to dynamically ask the best follow-up question, and it will continue to do that. That does improve the quality of your results. And up to 3 questions is a limit because we're busy. 3 questions gets the job done 80% of the time. So start with 3. You'll learn when to go for 4 or when to go for 5. Do not go beyond 5.
Okay.
Do not go beyond 5. The wheels come off the wagon. It starts to hallucinate. You're going to think it's AI's fault when it was yours. You didn't listen to Geoff. 3 to 5 questions. And then task. Task is whatever you want AI to do. My favorite task is give me the top 3 high impact, non-obvious strategies I could deploy to solve this problem. Send that. Watch AI interview you. And if it doesn't ask you 3 questions, check it. Say, hey, I told you to ask me 3 questions one at a time. Do your job. And it will go, sorry, you're right. And it'll keep asking questions. It will then give you a result that will blow your mind.
Dude, I say, so crit, context, role, interview, task. I love it.
Put 2 sticky notes on your desk. Sticky note number 1 says, how can AI help me do this? Sticky note number 2 says context, role, interview, task. For those of you who are listening, I am physically holding up 2 sticky notes that I just pulled off my desk. I wrote the book and I do this.
That's awesome. I can't flip the camera to my desk over there, but I do. I stole this from Amy and Velvet when they came back from one of your deals. How can AI help? So
yeah,
I don't look at it all the time. I need to put it specifically on my computer. That is gold. That is gold. Thank you very much. Hey, one last question on that, and that is, at what point does using AI stop being a competitive advantage and become table stakes? I guess we're already there.
Yes and no. Most of AI is going to become a source of competitive parity. It's like saying the reason we have a competitive advantage is because we use the internet. We use Microsoft Excel. That's why we have a competitive advantage. At one point when that was new, it was an advantage because nobody else was using it. So right now, most of AI is a chance to build a lead. But a lead does not mean that you win. Advantage is how you win. If you study competitive advantages, they come from your internal capabilities that are valuable, rare, or costly to imitate. So this is where you have to ask yourself the right questions. What is it about what makes us us that is valuable? Make that list. Rare, make that list. Costly to imitate, make that list. Then you ask the question for every single one of them individually. If we pointed AI at this, would this enhance this capability or undermine it? Don't assume it advances it. It could undermine it. If it undermines it, don't touch AI. If it enhances it, touch AI. Focus there on use cases there. That's how you build a competitive advantage with AI.
I love it. I love it. So, hey, let's go back to AI leadership, which is the business. So first of all, I want to give you props, and I think you already know this, but 2 of my partners at Hire Better, Velvet and Amy, were very much avid attenders, and I think still attendees at some of your collabs. And they love what you're doing. And of course, I love what you're doing. The reason we were able to successfully sell Hire Better last year is because they formed a relationship with Bart Davis from 512 Financial, and they fell in love with each other, and 512 ended up buying Hire Better last year. So I owe you mad props, probably a box of, or at least a bottle of champagne. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Yeah, it was, when I found out about the acquisition, I actually forgot that they met at one of our events, which to me just like truly warmed my heart. I've always believed in the power of surrounding yourself with the right people and asking the right questions. And I love that that was able to happen.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about what you're doing. Since I know you've been doing it for a couple of years now, and I know that even that has a journey of how it goes.
Totally. You know, when I started the business, I had some initial thoughts, which is I want to invest the rest of my life focused on helping leaders think better. Because if I can shift how somebody thinks, I can shift how they act, I can shift the trajectory of their results professionally and personally. And I love asking the right questions. I thought the way that would manifest in a business sense was building the world's largest network of AI-driven leaders, which we call the Collective, which is what Velvet and Amy have been a part of. as we started to build this network of C-level execs who we're coming together, we're sharing how we're using AI, so it becomes this brain trust. What became really clear to me is that trying to stay ahead on all things AI is how you lose, because the vast majority of it does not drive value. What does is the 20% that drives 80% of the results. And this is where I went back to what is timeless rather than what's timely. And if I take a page out of my playbook at Jindal Steel, strategy, execution, people, technology. And so our whole focus as a company is not on keeping everybody up to date on all things AI. We are the best in the world at doing training for C-level teams and boards, because you have to get them to become AI-driven leaders to truly transform the company. Otherwise, it's like they're living in black and white and they're trying to describe color and they're telling everybody, do as I say, but not as I do. That is complete lack of integrity. So we do that, but then we actually work with them to restructure how they run the company. Because I had this realization, Kurt, companies are not designed to move at the speed AI requires to win. Think about how long it takes to do your annual plan and then update job descriptions and then priority shift, doesn't go according to plan. Like, the tax is so high. And so all of our focus has been on how do we embed what we have created called an AI thought partner as an AI-driven execution system for companies that dynamically keeps strategy alive, your plan up to date, and ensures that every person in your organization is executing the most important things that actually drive the value of the company.
And that's awesome. And as I understand it, and forgive me if I got this wrong, but it's not like you're a consulting company. You're basically, the consultants are the attendees. So you're basically supporting and helping each other in a collective way. Is that right?
Collective. That's the collective where it's those are the C-level execs. But now what we're actually doing is far more consulting of, we are going in, training the executive team and actually advising them over years as we are restructuring their rhythms of the business with our AI thought partner at the core of it.
I got you. I got you. That's amazing. So, hey, but before you started that, I know you had to have, I mean, you left a $12 billion company, it sounds like, in Jindal, and you made an entrepreneurial leap. Now, you had some entrepreneurial tendencies along the way. And so it sounds like it's been in your heart, but you made the jump. And so that was risky. And I'm sure that when you told people what you were doing, they're like, what the hell are you doing, Geoff? What do you, back down? Tell me about that decision and how it impacted your family, your friends, and whatnot.
Leaving Jindal to start AI leadership felt like the safest thing I could have done. And it's December of 23. That's how early we are in AI. And I am realizing that everybody in the world is focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on the tech and not the leaders. In my bones, Kurt, I was like, I was born for this. I'm a good storyteller. I'm amazing on stage. I have a background of advising and consulting companies. I have contacts. Like, if I just start a company on AI, people will throw money at me. That's literally what I told myself. I resigned. I took a month off. February 8th of 24 is when I said, I'm going to write a book and build a company. As I started to write the book, I got a really wise piece of advice from somebody who went through Y Combinator, the famous tech incubator. He asked me, Geoff, your vision for the company in the book, how many ideal customers have you talked to who said they would actually give you money for that? My answer was 0. And he said, go do what Airbnb did. Go talk to 100 customers, then come back and tell me what your company is. I ended up talking to 200. 100% of them said AI was the future. 100% of them said they would adopt it. Kurt, less than 5% had done anything. That was scary, because I'm realizing I am creating a solution in search of a problem. If it's really a problem, they would actively be trying to solve it, and they would be spending money to solve that problem. Otherwise, it's not really a problem. That was like existential crisis mode, because now I'm like, oh crap, I got a family, I got a wife, I got 3 kids, I got a mortgage, I got, like, holy smokes, what have I done? But I asked a powerful question. Why haven't they started? You know what the answer was? They didn't know how. And that is what ended up making The AI-Driven Leader the #1 book in the world. I literally blew the manuscript up. It was going to be a book about transforming your company. That's not what people wanted. They wanted to know how to go from 0 to 1 at a leadership level in a way that mattered. And so the whole book is about using AI with tons of prompts throughout the book to elevate how you think. And
Wow.
that was the rest is history.
Well, when I talked to Jason Bronstad before this, he mentioned something about your ability to basically do a Wayne Gretzky and skate to where the puck is going, and that you're a master at that. So I think you've just described it to the audience right here. You skated to where the puck was going.
And thank you. And by the way, we've continued to do it. My vision was to create the world's largest network of AI-driven leaders. And it was October of 25 do you know Keith Cunningham?
I don't.
Okay. Brilliant business mind. Hired him to play a coach role for me. And he looked at me and he said, Geoff, you have a problem. I said, Keith, what's that? He said, you spend more time listening to your vision than the market. The vision doesn't pay your bills. The market does. He's like, you're so obsessed with your vision of the collective. But there's a saying in the stock market, which is go find the quacking ducks and feed them. Customers are coming to you, asking you, help us drive AI in our company. And you're going, yeah, but I got this collective. He's like, I don't give a crap about your collective. Go find the quacking ducks and feed them. Where there is the market going, quack, quack. And that was profound because I went back to what made the book so good. I went back to customers. Where do you need help most right now? And that's where it came down to realizing we actually needed to put more focus on our advisory practice, which has transformed the entire company and doing it very specifically at the strategic level of enabling strategy and execution with AI.
So we're going to take that quote, go find the quacking ducks and feed the ducks. Thank you, Keith Cunningham, for that quote.
Yep.
All right. I love it. Hey, we're at the point of the show where I've got to ask you about your unlocking move or moves. I'm sure there's maybe more than the one we described already, but just to remind the audience, is a key pivotal moment or decision point that really changed Geoff's life or changed the trajectory of his company. So Geoff, what are one or two of yours?
So many of them are woven throughout this. The CEO of the company I was interning for in college saying, asking what's the right job is the wrong question. Ask what are the skills I can master that are so valuable, will serve me no matter where I go. That was an unlocking move.
Hey, what was his name? Let's give him a shout out.
Matthew Cherish.
Matthew Cherish, shout out that you changed a life, and hopefully you're going to change more lives. We never know the ripple effect we're going to have when we say things like that. And I don't know if you've thanked him, but if you haven't, thank you.
I should. Another one. Between my junior and senior year of college, I was an accounting major, and I was doing an internship with Grant Thornton. And on offer day, I sit down across from Damon Fryer, the partner. And he starts to slide an offer across the table, and he stops and he looks at me and he goes, I have one question. Why aren't you in sales? And I remembered thinking, because you're about to offer me 40 grand a year. But the words that came out of my mouth were, I don't know. And he said, if you really want to work here, call me in 6 months, but you belong in sales. That was an unlocking move because I 100% would have focused on climbing the ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall for me.
That's awesome. What was his name again?
Damon Fryer.
Damon Fryer.
Unlocking moves. I mean, all my time with Gary and Jay.
Well, just approaching the stage, right, with Jay and Gary.
Yep. And them teaching me how to ask the right. Actually, this was actually a really good one. It was a coach I had while I was with The One Thing. He said, you're supposed to be the face of The One Thing. How many times have you read it? And I said 3. And he goes, good. Read it again. But this time, for every chapter, I want you to write down 10 ways you can live it. 18 chapters, 180 ways you can live the one thing. That was profound. Then I came back to him and he said, but the real skill you need to master is asking the right questions. Reread the book, and for every chapter, write down 10 deadly questions. And I asked him, what's a deadly question? He said, it's a question that's so big that when you get asked it, you have to stop in your tracks and go, whoa, great question. Here's an example of a deadly question. Or here's not a deadly question. How do we grow our business this year? Not a deadly question. How do we double the growth of our business this year? Deadly question. How might we double the growth of our business this year while working half the hours? Great question. That was an unlocking move.
Wow. And what was his or her name?
Tony DeCello.
Tony DeCello. Let's go. So, man, this episode is just chock full of things we can, lessons we can glean. So, man, I really appreciate all of that. And I do have a couple of other questions I need to ask. Not that I need to ask, I want to ask them. Two of them, they're my special questions, honestly. One is called the listener's advocate question.
Mm.
So if I'm watching this episode and, I've got access to Kurt's ear and I can ask any question of Geoff, what would it be? And I've got a couple that came up for me. The question was, when you walked away from the one thing in Keller Williams, you're walking away from an ecosystem that probably defined you for a period of time. You were the face, and it was, I'm sure, full of angst. So the question is, how hard was that decision? And really, what did it feel like losing your identity for a period of time?
Yeah, well, that is it. I lost my identity. I didn't realize it when the decision was made. It wasn't until the next morning when I woke up feeling what felt like depression. I made the mistake I think a lot of people might be making in their careers, where I was attaching my identity to the job. And when the job was no longer the job, I didn't know who I was. That led to 6 months of fairly deep work. It was a dark chapter in my life. When I was a kid, I was bullied pretty significantly. Most of my life, I grew up hating myself. My way to overcome that trauma was to achieve. I thought if I could achieve, if I could be more successful than my peers, they'll like me, they'll respect me. It very much drove me. I'd like to think I've accomplished a decent amount. I'm 40 years old now. I've accomplished a lot in 40 years. But I so attached my sense of worth to external things. Title, status, monetary things, who I surround myself with. And the one thing gave me so much of that. And when it wasn't there, do I matter? And what I learned, the fact that you exist means you matter. I also learned that you are you. You are not what you do. And this is hyper relevant with AI because there's a lot of fear. People think it's going to take their job, which I have points on that as well. I don't think that's the case. But deeper, they think it's going to take their identity because they've attached their identity to their job. And for me, this was a path of discovering what is it that makes Geoff Woods Geoff Woods? And how do I align who I am with what I do? And now you look at AI and ask, okay, now, and once I'm clear on that, how do I use it to enhance myself? Because it can never replace myself.
Yeah. And that's powerful. I'm glad you shared that. My podcast that just dropped today was with Patty Boyle. She's an executive coach that specializes in executives in transition, and she helps them move beyond the money, and most of them, as we said, are they lost their identity, maybe their community, maybe their purpose, and she helps them discover their purpose. And it's much more about than a job. And so I'm glad that you found your way, because that's powerful for anybody, especially folks in transition. Okay, one last question. It's a trick question, and that is one question that you're never asked, and either you secretly wish they would, or you're glad that they don't. I've got a couple.
We're going to do something. We're going to do something really interesting. I'm wrapping up an interview right now, and I was just asked a question, which is, what's one question I'm never asked that I wish I was asked, or a question that I've never been asked that I hope I will never be asked? I want you to harness everything you know about me that I may or may not know about myself to answer that question. Let's use AI to say.
This is real time, folks. He is talking to AI right now to get the answer to this question.
Hold on. Give me the top three, give them in order of recommendation, numerical bullets, no additional justification required. It gave me one. I want to push it to give me more.
This is the sausage being made, boys and girls.
Here we go. It's the third one. At what point does my ambition start to outpace my judgment?
Well, I love it. Let's go. What you got?
Okay.
Hey, because he's thinking so hard, that made this already happen.
I asked Keith Cunningham this question, a similar question, which is, when is enough enough? And he said, sometimes more is better, and sometimes it's not. When it's better, go for more, and when it's not, it's enough. Because I very much have been dancing. I went to my AI board, which is a board of advisors that I have architected. I gave AI all my personality profiles, what I believe my strengths and weaknesses were, my 10-year vision, culture documents, wrote a crit, had it interview me, and to identify if I were to assemble a real board, what would be the skills I would want to attract to the board that could advise me to get to where I want to go. So Steve Jobs is on my board for vision, product design, storytelling. He's not allowed to talk to me about being a husband, a father, or a leader. Warren Buffett is on my board for long-term planning and risk mitigation. my future self, the man I want to be 30 years in the future, is on my board. So the man I want to become advises me every day. I went to my AI board and I asked it to interview me to help create an end game document of what am I actually optimizing for in my life. And one of the things that like I have been so focused on scale without asking why. And what my AI board helped me understand is that I don't actually care about scale. I care about simplicity. I care about freedom. And so at what point does ambition start to outpace judgment is when my ambition is in search for more, when more is no longer better.
Wow. You just gave us 3 more tips that we can use with the AI board, your future self. That's beautiful stuff, man. Hey, let me ask you one more question. I know we're tight on time, and I appreciate you hanging out. But one last question is really to inspire future entrepreneurs, and that is anybody who's on the edge of a potential career shift. What kind of advice would you give to them as they're considering what that next step might be, or even to take that next step?
I think this is a perfect AI use case. What's the 20% that you need to focus on that if you could solve it would unlock a huge level of growth for you? Then engage AI as a thought partner, right? Context, role, interview, task. I would write a crit. Context, I'm potentially entering a transition in my career, and I would give it tons of context. And when you think you've given enough, give it more about why and what's not working that you wish were working. What do you want to have that you don't have? And when you think you've given enough, give it more. Role. Your role is to act as a world-class executive coach who specializes in helping leaders transition in their career and make sure that they make a decision not only aligned with what they want, but who they want to become. Interview me, ask me 1 question at a time, up to 5 questions to gain deeper context. Then your task is to lay out the top 10 opportunities you think I should consider, ranked in order of recommendation. Give me a justification for why as sub bullets. And after that, I want you to ask me for my feedback on those so you can pull deeper context out of my head so you can compress it to the top 3.
Let's go. I love it, man. You just made a lot of people more successful. I am pretty sure of that. So, hey, man, on that note, we're going to wrap this puppy up. Geoff Woods, thank you so much for joining me on Unlocking Moves. I'm going to ask the audience to please go like and subscribe this episode and subscribe to Unlocking Moves wherever you consume your podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever. And Geoff, again, thank you so much for giving me your time, man. Great time.
Yeah, and if I can ask, if this brought value to you, 2 things. 1, get a copy of the AI Driven Leader for you and your team. It'll change your life. 2, I would check out the AI Driven Leader podcast where we actually sit down with actual CEOs and record the conversations as we're transforming our companies.
I love it. There you go. AI Driven podcast and the AI Driven Leader. I love it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Geoff.
See ya.
If you're an entrepreneur and you think you might have outgrown a member of your team, or maybe you've got a mic, as we talked about in Who's Your Mic, check out this quiz at who'syourmic.com/quiz. That's who'syourmic.com/quiz.